2022 will prioritize evaluation of a provincial youth development framework as well as evaluation of the SMME provincial framework. During the course of the year, various strategic partnerships that resonate with the priority of ensuring the provincial government is capable, ethical, and developmental state will be pursued, targeting groups such as business sector chambers, traditional leaders, and institutions of higher learning. We are making steady progress in resolving the issues related to the plight of ex-minors workers, with 1,357 of them having been paid by their respective dues. Focus will now be on remaining 4,823 beneficiaries of the Mine Workers Provident Fund. Honorable Deputy Speaker, on this day in 1988, the Battle of Quito Canavara came to the halt. The battle was a major turning point in the struggle for our liberation as it forced the apartheid regime to come to the negotiation table. On this day, we want to salute the people of Cuba, for it was Cuba and its leader, Commandante Fidel Castro, who, alongside our MK combatants against this evil system of apartheid in Angola. May their souls all, may the souls of all of the Cuban and MK soldiers who fell in Quito Carnaval rest in peace. The cooperation between our province and the German province of Lower Saxony achieved 25 years of its existence in 2020, and processes are at an advanced stage to renew the MOU with our international partner. In 2020, we shared best practices for managing communicable diseases with a particular focus on COVID-19. The partnership with Cordoba province in Argentina on conservation agriculture, which is still a pilot stage in Tambo district municipalities, has the potential to contribute to food security. Currently, the project, which targets 207,000 hectares for grain production in Tambo, Christiani, Alfred Nzo, over a period of 5 years, has created 12 full-time jobs with 300 seasonal jobs in the Tambo district municipality. Honorable Deputy Speaker, the operationalization of AFCFTA will bring open economic opportunities for our province. At the beginning of this year, we initiated consultation with Secretariat of the AFCFTA to ensure that the competitive advantage we have in the agricultural sector, automotive sector, and oceans economy are fully integrated with AFCFTA to ensure this project gains traction, sustainability, and resilience. In the next financial year, Honorable Deputy Speaker and honorable members, we will employ various efforts to improve the IGR functionality in the province to optimize the role of IGR in service delivery. These include development of an IGR functionality tool, establishment of an IGR core teams, establishment of DDM implementation task teams, the revitalization of Operation Maspatisane to strengthen integrated planning and monitoring project at the ward room level. We will also leverage on the provision of the intergovernmental relations framework to strengthen our efforts to eliminate the triple challenge of poverty, inequality, and unemployment. Deputy Speaker, with respect to gender-based violence and femicide, which I also made reference to in the SOPA, we are working towards strengthening the multi-sectoral coordination and collaboration across different tiers of government and sections of society based on relationships of trust that give effect to the pillars of the National Strategy Plan. We are going to monitor the plans and budget of departments to ensure they advance women empowerment through accelerated initiatives that address women's unequal economic and social position. In the current financial year, we adopted the provincial policy on military veterans support, in terms of which we committed ourselves to support military veterans, especially in areas such as housing, agriculture, health. We will intensely implement the policy in partnership with the Department of Military Veterans. Achieving employment equity targets, particularly relating to persons with disability, remains one of the key commitments of the sixth administration. We have identified posts that we earmark to fill with persons with disability. This year, we also aim to attain and maintain a minimum of 50-50 gender equity, whilst also enforcing the implementation of gender responsive planning and the budgeting framework in all sector departments. Honorable members, the pros of COVID-19 pandemic include the realization of the weaknesses in a number of our systems, including the service delivery systems at the points where our people should be served professionally, efficiently, and with dignity. In response to this, we will strengthen and intensify our monitoring in frontline services delivery departments and institutions such as SAPS, the courts, SASSA, Post Office, and Home Affairs to improve how these institutions deliver vital services to the citizens of the Eastern Cape. We will improve the quality and credibility of reports we provide to oversight bodies and our citizens at large by increasing the scope and vigor in the verification. We will institutionalize quarterly performance reviews to improve performance of sector departments through the department performance engagement sessions, as well as through the PCMT biannually to ensure that projects and plans are implemented timelessly. The rollout of the National Evaluation Policy Framework to local government and entities to evaluate the effectiveness and implementation government programs will be heightened. Improving the resolution rate of citizen complaints through the Premier's presidential hotline will be enhanced. Honorable members, a total of 650 million has been spent on the small town revitalization program since 2016. This has yielded the economic spin-off to the value of 2 billion, both private and public investment. One of these spin-offs is the approval of 1.1 billion budget facility for infrastructure for Ndlambe municipality, where construction of student and accommodation will begin in Alice at a value of 500 million. The revitalization of these towns has also led to the construction and shopping malls that have created more than 300 permanent jobs due to availability of basic infrastructure funded through the S3R program. In the 2021-2022 financial year, we are extending the STR program to 8 new towns across 6 municipalities: Paukama, Ingcobo, Mkanduli, Mnuma, Great Kai, and Mbashe, Ilinga, and Whitley C. Plans and designs are being finalized in preparation for construction to start later in the financial year. An amount of 186 million will be spent on the STR program to complete existing projects in the towns currently benefiting and to start projects in newly added towns. Countries allocated 201 million to ensure institutional development and organizational support. We have productive, good relations with various sectors that have a footprint in our province. For instance, we have completed a massive project in the built environment which was made possible by the 3.9 million investment of the Construction, Education and Training Authority, which empowered 800 young people with skills. We entered into an agreement with MESITA of 15.5 million for the training of 30 apprentices and 150 engineer students to complete their practical 1 and practical 2 training in order to qualify for the engineering qualification. We completed a project involving 250 young people on facilitator and moderator training at 12.5 million with the ADTP SITA. We also facilitated the training of 40 artisans with the Transport, Education and Training Authority to the value of 8.7 million. We have entered into agreement with PSETA to train 50 unemployed young people, 30 disabled learners and 15 rural learners. This project will be launched in April 2021. We are also in the negotiations with the Mining Qualification Authority for the training of ex-miners and their dependents in rural areas. We are also supporting Lovedale College to implement their unemployment insurance fund funded projects for the training of 1,200 youth in agriculture and related skills. The project is valued at 70 million. We are currently completing our 75 million project with the National Skills Fund for the training of 1,000 TVET college students to achieve their diplomas, a critical step for these students to become qualified and access job opportunities. We envisage that our agreements with SITAs will directly result in the training of more than 500 youth and indirectly more than 1,000 youth in the 2021 financial year. Honorable members, the State of the Province address that I tabled in this House last month, we listed the positive impact of our investment promotion in the province as part of the marketing of our province as the investment and tourist destination of choice. We'll develop a long-term consolidated provincial marketing and brand management strategy. The strategy will be anchored on good governance, tourism, investment, economy, and heritage. I would like to acknowledge the additional support we received with effect from 1st of March 2021 from SITA to bolster the capacity of the CIO office and the broadband unit. With this support, the Eastern Cape Provincial Government Digital Transformation Strategy will be finalized within the first half of the new financial year. Digital transformation strategy will outline the Eastern Cape Provincial Government 5-year roadmap in how it will utilize the two undersea cables landing on our shores and how the Eastern Cape will reposition itself in implementing the recommendation of the Presidential Commission on 4IR. Underpinning the digital strategy in the broadband project has entered its implementation phase of connecting 2,700 sites over the 36 months. We are currently busy with 150 sites. We will be dealing by end of this financial year with more than 600 sites. We will be doing more than 1,200 sites by end of December 2022 and 2,700 sites by end December 2023. In line with our local economic development, CETA has accredited 114 of the 292 applicants to participate in the economic activities over the course of the 10-year broadband project using the provincial-wide broadband infrastructure. The Office of the Premier will pilot a provincial unified telecommunication system to realize 40 to 70% savings on the current provincial spend in telecommunication services. The Provincial State Law Advisory Services will focus on the capacitation of local government councillors and legal advisors on bylaws development. Bylaws development is critical part of the work of the municipalities, which directly affects service delivery and contributes towards the adherence of the rule of law at a local government level. As members would know, the Executive Council mandated the Office of the Premier to manage the medical legal claims. To this end, the Specialized Litigation Unit has been established. The unit is almost fully populated and has adopted a proactive approach to combating the new medical legal cases. This involves dealing effectively with letters of demand, which is the initial stage of the case. On matters of traditional leadership, the Khoisan Act will come into operation with effect from 1st of April, and a process of recognizing the Khoisan communities or leaders will unfold. The Office of the Premier, supported by the Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, will facilitate this process. Honorable members, the assessment of anti-corruption infrastructure in the municipalities has commenced with the aim of creating anti-corruption capacity and anti-corruption structures within the deliberations related to fraud and corruption will be held, and practical countermeasures will be developed. The collaboration with Ethics Institute of South Africa, SALCA National Copter, and the Moral Regeneration Movement will result in the development of this. So, Honorable Speaker?
I was saying 2 minutes remaining, Honorable Premier.
Oh, okay. Madam Speaker, the Office of the Premier has also public entity, the EXEC, which is dedicated to foster social partnership in relations between the stakeholders. We have increased the budget of EXEC to 70 million in the financial year we're talking about, in support of the provincial priority enabling economic recovery and job creation. EXEC will co-host the Provincial Investment Conference. Honorable Speaker, in this year of Charlotte McClurg, as I conclude, I wish to reiterate the call to action that I articulated in the State of the Province address in the SOPA. I said difficult times calls for maximum unity and common purpose to turn adversities into victory. The Eastern Cape has the potential to rise up again from the ashes of COVID-19 to be a leader in development. Once again, we call upon the people of Eastern Cape to continue adhering to wearing the mask, physical distancing, regular washing of hands, and avoiding large gatherings. I now table the policy speech and the annual performance plans of the Office of the Premier as well as EXEC. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Premier. You are right on time. You were left with seconds before your time lapse. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. We are now going to the next order of the day, the second. Secretary.
Yes, copy, Honorable Deputy.
Oh, sorry. sorry for that. Okay. The policy speech, honourable members, and all table documents stand referred to the Portfolio Committee responsible for the subject matter of the vote in terms of Rule 16, subsection 2. I will now ask the Secretary to read the second order of the day.
Tabling of Budget Vote 2, Provincial Legislature.
I will now call upon the Honorable Speaker of the Eastern Cape Provincial Legislature to present her 2021-2022 policy speech in terms of Rule 160, subsection 4.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Honorable Premier of the Eastern Cape Province, the presiding officers, Chair of Chairs and the Deputy Chair of Chairs, members of the Executive of the Legislature, the troikas of the district, metropolitan and local municipalities, leaders of the House of Traditional Leaders, leaders of faith-based organizations, business, labor and civil society, representatives of SALGA, representatives of our Chapter 9 and 10 institutions, leaders of institutions of higher learning, officials from the legislature, government departments, ladies and gentlemen. Honorable members, this year, 2021, marks the 27th anniversary of our hard-earned democracy and the 25th anniversary since the adoption of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa. We are also commemorating 100 years since the Bulhoek massacre, which was a testament of courage, sacrifice, and truth to our conviction for a just society as a people. A parallel of this heroic act can today be drawn from the patent commitment to South Africa by our frontline workers when they stepped up to the call of national duty against all odds and at great risk to themselves and that of their families. In a book, Women in Solitary, Inside the Female Resistance to Apartheid, author Shantini Naidu describes the notion of selfless contribution and national duty as follows, and I quote, "It is mostly not about great men or great women, but about the foot soldiers of resistance whose ongoing acts of service to a greater good propel the struggle against racism and apartheid in South Africa over more than a century," close quote. Honorable Deputy Speaker, the outbreak of the coronavirus and the subsequent measures taken by national government meant that the legislature had to quickly adapt. This required the formulation and implementation of a COVID-19 response and mitigation strategy. The Eastern Cape Provincial Legislature was also one of the first parliaments in the country to conduct oversight and to have formal house sittings using the virtual platforms. During this period, the House proceedings continued virtually and processed over 1,300 questions and 60 committee reports were considered and adopted by this House. We are pleased to report that the legislature in total has processed 15 bills made up of 9 national bills, of which it submitted all the mandates to the NCOP and the other 6 were provincial bills. The introduction of the district-based oversight model was expedited to maintain our oversight and our public participation functions. The implementation of the model allowed for compliance with the strict COVID-19 regulations and for members to have boots on the ground to conduct oversight and public participation in all districts. Honorable Deputy Speaker, in the 2020-21 policy speech, we committed to hosting the Women's Parliament and Parliament for the Elderly. It gives me great pleasure to report that these sectoral parliaments were successfully held and extended to representatives and participants in the various districts. During this period, we also hosted a webinar to celebrate the International Africa Day. The International Nelson Mandela Day was conducted within the framework of the district-based oversight model and provided much needed personal protection equipment for residents and staff members of these community centers. We acknowledge the partnership with the provincial government in this program, and we hope that this partnership will even continue this year. In the reporting period, we held a successful 4th annual Raymond Mhlaba Memorial Lecture, which was addressed by the Honorable Thandi Modise, the Speaker of the National Assembly. Honorable members, we are committed to building a culture embedded on ethics and integrity. To give practical meaning to this commitment, we continue to ensure compliance in the submission of disclosures of interest by both staff and honorable members. Efforts to improve the legislature's ethical culture commence with a program to raise ethical awareness within the institution. The program will culminate in the development of an ethics strategy for the legislature. Honorable members, as the country gradually emerges out of the state of disaster and lockdown regulations, the situation demands greater courage in continuing with the tasks that have been assigned to us. We must believe that there is a better tomorrow lying ahead in the horizon, and we must start to reimagine our lives without the overwhelming emotional burdens of the past year. In this regard, American poet Maya Angelou aptly captures it when she says, and I quote, "Our mission in life is not merely to survive, but to thrive and to do so with some passion, some compassion, some humor, and some style, close quote. This is very important year where we celebrate 150 years of Mom Charlotte Mateke. In her memory for her outstanding contribution, the work of the legislature this year will be guided by the values and principles of our revered stalwart, whose principles are still relevant for this generation and many generations to come. Honorable Deputy Speaker, despite the challenging environment, we still have a momentous task of holding the executive to account, particularly during the period of COVID-19 pandemic. For this reason, henceforth, our oversight will focus on the district-based oversight model, including our approach to the flagship programs. We intend to strengthen this model and to adapt it also to become compatible with oversight programs of the legislature. Therefore, honorable members, all the work of the committees will infuse use of this model. Equally, we will embark on 3 focused intervention studies and improve the research reports to enhance the work of committees. The legislature intends to continue exploring the development of a performance management framework for oversight committees to guide the implementation of the mandate of the legislature towards a more improved service delivery. Honorable Deputy Speaker, this year is a period for local government elections. The legislature has already met with the Independent Electoral Commission and will therefore play its part in strengthening participatory democracy by conducting its own public education program to ensure that the country consolidates on the 27 years of democracy. Delivery of this program will follow the district-based model and will be in partnership with IEC and other relevant organs of the state. Part of our education program will also include complementing the work of government in the fight against COVID-19 and the rollout of the vaccine. In this regard, members of the legislature are expected to demystify the myths and the link of the coronavirus vaccine to nefarious theories and explain the importance of being vaccinated, thus helping the province reach the envisaged population immunity status that is required. To enhance public involvement on legislature programs, we will continue live streaming of the legislature house sittings, the committee meetings, and external events on our communication platforms and community media for the benefit of stakeholders and the public at large. Honorable members, having adopted an approach of an activist parliament, we are encouraging members of the communities to effectively use our parliamentary constituency offices to raise their concern. And as a responsive People's Assembly, focused follow-up will be done on the petitions submitted and channeled through to departments for effective responses and implementations. Public participation being a cornerstone of our constitutional democracy, and it is one of the key programs in which the legislature opens access to the citizens and promotes representative participation in all the democratic processes of the legislature. While the coronavirus pandemic continued to impose restrictions on direct and physical forms of public engagement, we are confident that we will successfully host again our sectoral parliaments virtually this year. And we will focus on the parliaments for children and the religious sector in this financial year. The legislature also will continue with our annual Raymond Mhlaba Memorial Lecture, as well as the Nelson Mandela Day, which will be commemorated and using the district-based model. We are still on course, honorable members, with the commitment to the Women's Caucus of renaming the boardrooms as part of the Women's Month celebration during this financial year. The legislature, as an affiliate of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association and the Commonwealth Women Parliamentaries, will hold its annual Africa Day celebrations virtually under one of its work streams of combating urbanization. The Commonwealth Women's Parliamentarians will focus on the promotion of participatory democracy and internal relations. And in this regard, the Young Women's Parliament program is planned for June this year. Honorable members, the legislature continues to participate in the development of the legislative sector bill, the proposed amendments to the Electoral Act, and the development of the integrity legislation. The draft bill on scrutiny of subordinate legislation will also be introduced for consideration by the legislature. Honorable members, the upgrade of our ICT infrastructure is now nearing completion, and this will enable us to fast-track the acquisition of the long-awaited ERP system. I just lost my spot. My apologies. Furthermore, we are in the process of developing specifications for a comprehensive system that will cover the audio-visual in our boardrooms and our committee rooms that have been long outstanding. The shrinking budget in the public service and the need for fiscal consolidation are new challenges facing government today. And as we embark on these developments, we have considered it imperative to prioritize the review of our structures and programs with an aim of achieving the same objectives, but now with an efficient and an effective structure. This process has now started, and critical stakeholders such as labor and management are directly involved, as this process is internally driven. We intend on embarking on a very special program this year that will document the rich history of the legislature. This program is envisaged to be a 2-year project supported by the Legislature Research Unit. It entails the retrieving and sourcing of data of critical historic epochs of the legislature. This project is intended to preserve our institutional heritage for the benefit of generations to come. The Rules Committee has adopted a framework for the lifestyle audits, which will be rolled out in phases. The first phase will be conducted on the presiding officer, secretary of the legislature, executive managers, chief financial officer, and their spouses or life partners. The audits will cover a period of 2 years. The State Security Agency, which has been approached and has now agreed to conduct the lifestyle audits, and they have also assigned an official who will lead this process in the Eastern Cape Legislature. Honorable members, our supplies chain management requires a strong and capable internal audit function, and it remains critical to continuous improvement of internal controls. A review of this function will be undertaken to ensure it supports the financial reforms that seek transparency, responsiveness, and efficiencies in the finance and the supply chain management. Honorable members, the budget outlook for 2021-2022, we have received and appropriated an amount of 553. We do know that effectively this is from the previous financial year. We have committed to Provincial Treasury to find innovative and alternative methods in executing our constitutional mandate and to stay within the budgetary commitments. We acknowledge we are all in this together as the Eastern Cape province. The budget allocation is per the program and it is in the document. Honorable Deputy Speaker, this time last year, we were all gripped by perhaps the greatest fear of our lives, a time of great anxiety and uncertainty, a time where our hopes, dreams, and aspirations for the future became an instant blur, a time that threatened our lives, livelihoods, and our way of life. Devastating scenes from developed countries in Europe did not inspire confidence and rather painted a bleak picture that we were in trouble and on the brink of chaos and hopelessness. President Thabo Mbeki aptly captures this moment when he said, and I quote, "Gloom and despondency has never defeated adversity. Trying times needs courage and resilience. Our strength as a people is not tested during the best of times," close quote. This was indeed the worst of times and our strength truly tested, as we were either infected or affected in one way or the other. We are therefore eternally grateful for the courage and the resilient spirit of Chief Makoma, Chief David Stearman, Enoch Mkijima, Charlotte Makeke, Lillian Ngoyi, that was magnanimously displayed by frontline workers and the inspirational leadership demonstrated during this time of gloom and despondency. Honorable members, we are now on the cusp of victory because of our spirit of Ubuntu during a time when we could have easily opted for self-preservation, but chose to protect and to fight for one another. This is indeed a time of hope that victory is certain, and we should not let our guard down, but rather we become more vigilant now than ever before. Honorable Deputy Speaker, let me express my gratitude to the African National Congress for affording me the opportunity to lead this institution. I also thank my fellow presiding officers, the Chief Whip of the Legislature Oversight Committee, and all members of the legislature for the continued support and robust engagements as we seek to make the legislature a better institution that is able to fully discharge its mandate. Allow me to thank the Secretary of the Legislature and the management team, and also express a word of gratitude to the Labour Union Nahau and their commitment to help the legislature fulfill its purpose. Nkosi Sikelele, Africa, Khotsian Africa. Honorable Deputy Speaker, I hereby table the document Policies and Budget Vote 2021-22, the Annual Performance Plan 2021-22. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I think you have spared us 6 minutes. I wanted to say continue, Honorable Speaker, but thank you very much for being timely. Honorable members, let me repeat this. The policy speech and all tabled documents stand referred to the Portfolio Committee responsible for the subject matter of vote in terms of Rule 161. I referred to 160. That stands corrected, 161 subsection 2. Thank you very much, honored members. I will now ask the Secretary to read the next third order of the day.
Tabling of budget for social development.
Thank you very much. I will now ask the Honorable MEC to table and present her 2021-2022 policy speech in terms of Rule 160, subsection 4.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. To the Honorable Speaker, inkulumbuso yephondo ehloniphekileyo, amalungu wendlu yowiso-mthetho ahloniphekileyo, iinkokheli zendlu yenkosi, imibutho yasekuhlaleni, iinkokheli zeemvaba ngeemvaba, iintloko ze-arhente nge-arhente, umlawuli jikelele wephondo neentloko zamasebe, uluntu lweMpuma Kapa luphelele. Ndiyanibhotisa.
Bottom.
Deputy Speaker, today I'm again honored to present the budget and policy speech for the Department of Social Development for 2021-22. This budget and policy speech has been shaped by our engagements with our social partners, non-profit organizations, civil society, and the private sector. As a department, we have anchored positive relationships with our stakeholders, premised on a proposition to work together to solve societal problems and explore opportunities towards the realization of our shared social development goals. Honorable Deputy Speaker, we are gathered at a time of great social and economic distress as a result of COVID-19 pandemic, which has impacted hugely on the conditions and the well-being of individuals and families. The effects of COVID-19 have exacerbated our socio-economic situation, threatened livelihoods, and increased vulnerability and reduced options for families. The month of March marks the International Day of Social Workers. In this regard, I would like to take an opportunity to recognize and acknowledge our fallen heroes and heroines within the Department of Social Development and the sector at large, who were at the coalface of service delivery, ensuring that families, communities are supported during these difficult times. Honorable Deputy Speaker, indeed the human development evolution and its normal pattern has changed drastically in the context of COVID-19 pandemic. We have seen families losing members of their households due to untimely death caused by the pandemic. We have seen high levels of food insecurity amongst our communities. We have seen women experiencing gender-based violence more than before. We have seen breadwinners in our communities losing jobs through retrenchments, which affected their livelihoods. We have also seen an increase in the number of people entering the higher vulnerability and greater exposure of families to risk. We have seen an increased number of people affected by depression, anxiety, state of hopelessness, and growing social distress. Honorable members, we are cognizant of the fact that the Department of Social Development is strategically placed to deliver the much-needed services that are geared towards providing care, protection, and development of our communities. Our aim is to restore dignity, strengthen families, and to empower communities to be active participants in their own development, thus promoting social change. We intend to assimilate the clarion call by the President, Cyril Ramaphosa, which was made on the January 8th statement, where the President declared that 2021 is the year of Umamu Charlotte Maxeke. This year marks the 150th anniversary of the birth of one of South Africa's greatest social activists and pioneering leaders, Umamu Charlotte Maxeke. Mamu Maxeke represents women who broke incredible barriers at a time where women were expected to know their place in society. She made an exceptional contribution to the struggle for the liberation of women in South Africa and challenged contemporary attitudes about the place of women in politics, society, and the economy. Now, as the department, in celebrating Umama Maxeke, we will engage in a year-long campaign wherein the department will assume a more activist and a family-orientated approach in reinforcing the mandate of the National Development Plan through our Sisonke Sizophumelela campaign. This campaign is primarily aimed at government and civil society, deliberately intervening on threatened livelihoods and vulnerability of individuals and families that have been directly affected by COVID-19. In this context, I would like to draw the attention of this House to the following specific commitments that have been influenced by the political imperatives of our 5-year MTSF 2020-2025, which have been expressed in our 21-22 annual performance plan as following. Priority 1, which is strengthening early childhood development and the provisioning of child care and protection services to ensure that every child is protected, receives developmental opportunities at the early stage of his or her life. Priority 2, strengthening prevention and early intervention programs on gender-based violence and femicide. Priority 3, improving sustainable community development interventions. Priority 4, enhancing the participation, mainstreaming and empowerment of all our vulnerable groups, persons living with disabilities, youth and women development. Priority 4, growing and strengthening of the NPO sector through improving monitoring and management. Priority 6, building capable and ethical and developmental state for effective service delivery. Priority 7, strengthening social partnerships through which vulnerable individuals, groups and communities become capable, self-reliant participants in their own development. I will now outline the policy imperatives within the allocated budget and table critical social protection programs aimed towards ensuring empowerment, enhancement of the capabilities of individuals, families, communities for improved socio-economic development. On priority 1, on early childhood development services. Honorable Deputy Speaker, early childhood development is a government-wide priority. In realizing the vision of the Provincial Early Childhood Development Strategy, the department has ensured that 74,999 children access the ECD centers from our equitable share and conditional grant subsidy. These include our special day centers, which have increased to 5,230 children. Honorable Deputy Speaker, the ECD sector has been grossly affected by the loss of income brought on by COVID-19, which required immediate relief. In the current financial year, our government has ensured that measures are put in place through the presidential ECD package that assisted in ensuring that we protect 7,866 jobs. I am pleased to report that the Department of Social Development and the Department of Education have established a provincial task team to coordinate the migration of the ECD function, and an implementation plan is in place to fast-track this process. Notwithstanding the shift, our role as a department will focus on intensifying child care protection services aimed at building the cognitive and emotional development of children within their family environment, thus ensuring that they are safe from all forms of abuse, neglect, violence, and abandonment. And child care and protection services, in partnership with our child protection organization, we will provide alternative care services, stability and permanency planning to children in need of care and protection through our temporary safe care foster care services, residential care services, and adoption, focusing on reunification of children to their families. The total budget set aside for these services is 95.2 million. On building functional and resilient families, in partnership with our civil society organization within the family services sector, we will implement services that promote resilient, functional, and stable families, such as the Family Preservation Program, to prevent further vulnerability. These services will include family therapy, marriage preparation and enrichment, family group conferencing, mediation, and counseling, benefiting 16,114 family members. The budget set aside for these services is 9.1 million. On priority 2, honorable members, gender-based violence is a profound societal problem in the province, and our commitment remains stronger and bolder to tackle this epidemic. In my recent encounter with the effects of the pandemic, I visited the family of Siqotho family in Ngqusho local municipality, where the family lost a 12-year-old and a 15-year-old in a tragic incident and one of many gruesome cases of sexual assault and murder in our province. This unfortunate incident demonstrates the importance of the need to double our efforts in mobilizing society to ensure that we protect our children from all forms of violence. We cannot remain silent anymore. We must act and act now. We must act with more decisiveness and aggression if we are to defeat the scourge of gender-based violence. The department will champion the implementation of Pillar 4 in the National Strategic Plan on Gender-Based Violence and Femicide. Our priority will be on the provision of victim-centered response, care and support services aimed at restoring human dignity, healing, safety, freedom and equality to prevent secondary victimization. Again, in partnership with our civil society organization, we will strengthen the existing gender-based violence and femicide prevention programs through alternative platforms such as the media. We will also ensure the provisioning of safe sheltering services to women who are victims of violence in all the 8 districts in the province, with a special focus given to our people living with disabilities, accessing psychosocial support and sign language services. We will prioritize economic empowerment of survivors of gender-based violence with a special focus in the OR Tambo and the Nelson Mandela districts. The budget set aside for these services is 43.5 million. On priority 3, poverty alleviation and sustainable livelihoods. Honorable members, the department will continue to extend its partnership programs to cover vulnerable individuals, households and families towards improving access to food and nutrition security. In addition, more people will access nutritious meals through our center-based program, the Community Development Centers. The department will continue to support a range of poverty reduction initiatives to benefit 5,261 people and 296 households. Moreover, the department will also focus on child poverty and malnutrition intervention in Ingquza local municipality, Port St. John's and Ntabankulu. The budget set aside for these services is 14.4 million. On sustainable and inclusive job creation through our extended public works program. During the 21-22 financial year, the department will strengthen the management and the implementation of EPWP program by creating 6,613 work opportunities, as well as improve reporting and document management at all levels. The budget set aside for the EPWP program is 6.5 million. On local economic development, the department is committed to implement the Provincial Local Economic Development Framework, targeting 50% spent on locally manufactured commodities. To this end, 80% of the budget spent on goods and services will be spent either on locally manufactured products or on business enterprises that have a footprint in the province. The department will work with greater effort to unleash the economic potential of women, youth, and persons living with disabilities in ensuring that they have access to skills, assets, and opportunities. On our social relief of distress, as the province continues to face serious challenges of poverty, and specifically child poverty, the department has developed a strategy to mitigate the impact of abject poverty and child deprivation through setting aside funds for the provisioning of social relief of distress in the form of food parcels and school uniform. The budget set aside for this program is 8.2 million. On strengthening rural development through the anti-poverty strategy, as we remain committed in the National Development Plan, which aims to eliminate poverty and reduce inequality by 2030, The integrated anti-poverty strategy is one of our catalyst programs for the provisioning of comprehensive developmental services by ensuring that communities become active champions of their own development. The budget set aside for coordination of this program is 525,000. Priority 4, on women development services. In 2021-22, the department will mobilize 6,644 women and fund 27 livelihoods initiatives for the empowerment and integration of women in the mainstream economy. Formal partnerships will be established with KGI Holdings for the placement of 100 women and youth upon completion of an accredited ICT skills program. The budget set aside for women development is 3.1 million. Youth development. The department will implement youth mobilization programs targeting 9,750 young people and skills development programs benefiting 1,029 young people from all districts. Further, 119 youth development structures will be supported. The total budget for youth development services is 9.9 million. On our services to all the people living with disabilities, in the 2021-22 financial year, the department will intensify the provisioning of community-based rehabilitation services for persons with disabilities through strengthening the disability forums. Furthermore, the department will fund 19 residential facilities for the provisioning of care, protection, and support to services with disabilities. 24 protective workshops for the implementation of skills development program, provisioning of psychosocial support to persons with disabilities, and 29 community-based rehabilitation projects. The total budget set aside for this is 30.9 million. Our services to older person, as the department is obliged to provide services to increase the lifespan of the older persons through the provisioning of community-based care services in realization of the transformation agenda as outlined in the sector priorities. The department will aggressively promote home-based care, ensuring that older persons receive services through caregivers at their homes. The total budget set aside for this program is 76.6 million. Our sanitary dignity program for young women. Honorable members, in order to redress the vulnerability of young women, the department will enhance the access of indigent girls to adequate sanitary products to achieve sanitary dignity. This financial year, a total of 37,307 young learners from quintile 1, 2, and 3 schools and special schools of children living with disabilities will benefit from the program with a view of protecting their dignity and academic performance. The total budget for this program is 33 million. On priority 5, new partnerships with reliable, responsive, and accessible social development services. The Department of Social Development has a rich history of implementing partnerships with NPOs, which impacted positively in the development and empowerment of our vulnerable groups in our communities, thus contributing to the improved quality of life. In this regard, 275 NPOs and 116 cooperatives will be trained on compliance matters and accredited technical skills. The budget for this is 1.5 million. On priority 6, as significant lessons have been learnt by the department during the COVID-19 period on shortcomings in rendering services through our social partners, which resulted in slow response time, fragmented and intervention, ineffective coordination with civil society, and poor management of performance information to allow for speedy and reliable reporting. We have since determined that the root cause of this weakness of our partnerships are the scope, focus, and how these are managed. In this regard, we commit to expand the scope of focus of the DSD partners to include the private sector, state-owned enterprises, the national and international development agencies, to enable the department to expand its footprint and make services accessible to the underserviced communities that are located in deep rural parts of the province. To ensure structured relations and to improve efficiencies in cooperation and partnerships, we will establish an AMEC advisory group on partnership work, which will serve as an expert reference group responsible for advising the MEC and the department to ensure effective coordination, alignment with government priorities, and effectiveness of social investment in increasing the footprint and impact of our partners. On Priority 7, Honorable Deputy Speaker, we are mindful of the provisioning of the one paper for public sector transformation aimed at building capable and ethical public service. As such, we will be decisive in our efforts to implement these provisions. Our plan is to rigorously overhaul the organizational performance management system for the next 2 years. Through the implementation of the organizational turnaround plan, we will strengthen local service offices for an improved service delivery. Honorable Speaker, I want to share with the people of the Eastern Cape the sentiments derived from the speech delivered by Mamu Charlotte Maxeke at the National Council of African Women in 1938 in Bloemfontein. And I quote, "The work is not for oneself. Kill the spirit of self and do not live above your people, but live with them. If you rise, take somebody with you." As such, as the Department of Social Development, we shall therefore rally behind one unified vision to advance the developmental and socio-economic agenda of our democratic government with our social sector partners at the center of service delivery in caring, protecting, and developing our communities with efficiency and effectiveness. I want to acknowledge and appreciate the contribution our social partners, Old Mutual, Coca-Cola, ABSA, Vodacom, Eastern Cape NGO Coalition, Eastern Cape NPO Sector, the National Development Agency, our South African Social Security Agency, South African Council of Churches, the United Nations Population Fund, who have demonstrated a commitment geared towards conveying a message of hope, resilience, and support in the unpredictable time. I now table the budget for the Department of Social Development in the province of the Eastern Cape. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Honourable Member. The policy and the table documents can refer to the Portfolio Committee responsible for the subject matter of the vote in terms of Rule 161(2). I will now ask the Secretary to read the fourth order of the day. Secretary.
Tabling of budget vote 5, Public Works.
I call upon the member of the Executive Council responsible for the Department of Public Works to present his 2021-22 policy speech in terms of Rule 164. Honorable MEC Madikizela.
Honorable Speaker, Honorable Premier and members of the Executive Council, Honorable Chairperson and members of the Portfolio Committee on Public Works and Infrastructure, Honorable members of Provincial Legislature, government officials, departmental stakeholders, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. The 2020-21 policy speech was tabled on the backdrop of the global pandemic of COVID-19. Many who walked and worked with us in the noble idea to deliver the better and quality services have fallen along the way. May their faithfully departed souls rest in eternal peace. The pandemic on its own demanded an agile and responsive developmental state. Although the world, country, and province were on a complete shutdown, conversely, the expectation for economic opportunities and basic service delivery continued to grow. Honorable Speaker, you would agree that Karl Marx's 11 thesis on feedback that, I quote, "Philosophers have only interpreted the world in various ways. The point, however, is to change it," close quote, has become relevant and instructive in the current challenges facing our country and the province. In the year of Mama Charlotte Maxeke, siyatsho bantabam kuzoqhuza uthuli, kungacelwa into engapheliyo. For 2021-2022, the department has been allocated a total budget of 2.5 billion, a decrease of 3% compared to 2020-21 main allocation. Therefore, more has to be done with less. Over the past 3 years, the department has embarked on a transformation trajectory of positioning public works as the nerve center for infrastructure delivery in the province. In 2021, we will operationalize the structure, including the filling of critical funded posts. Honorable members, the PIMO has been fully established and plays a pivotal role in augmenting the existing capacity of the department. Such capacity will help finalize the discussion of improving the coordination, delivery, and investment on infrastructure in the province. The economic recovery plan pronounced by the President, His Excellency Cyril Ramaphosa, is anchored on infrastructure development. This ought to challenge us to be bold about infrastructure coordination, delivery, and investment as the province. It is our view, honorable members, that the department working with Khawuleza PIMO has to be a single point of entry for infrastructure development in the province. In the coming year, the department will strengthen its relations with the Khawuleza PIMO for effective coordination of both social and economic infrastructure. Madam Speaker, Thomas Sankara cautions, I quote, "You cannot carry out fundamental change without a certain amount of madness. Change comes from non-conformity, the courage to turn back on the old formulas, the courage to invent the future," close quote. We must join his call to be individually one of those madmen. We must dare to invent the future. We are firmly committed to transform the property sector, utilizing property portfolio. The Property Investment and Development Conference scheduled could not materialize due to COVID-19. The province is set to hold one investment conference in the year 2021. Honorable members, we have collated strategic state-owned properties in a bid book ready to be released to property investors and developers through long-term leases. Last year, we reported on the advertisement calling for proposals to develop 32 properties from 100% black-owned, controlled, and managed property developers. It is pleasing to report that we have since awarded 14 properties with an estimated revenue of 838 million over the 30-year lease period. Of these properties, 3 have been awarded to women and 2 to youth property developers. We have awarded the tender for the development of the former Amatola Sun in Bisho. This development will be a catalyst for the overall revitalization of Bisho. The revenue expected from the Amatola Sun lease is estimated to be approximately 1 million a month and 1.2 billion over a lease period of 99 years. Honorable members, I must hasten to state that at the end of the lease terms, the ownership of all these properties will revert to the state. Worth mentioning is that the success of the property transformation agenda will be made possible by our fruitful engagements with white property developers who themselves in unison have said, "We too want to be mad." Their madness will further accelerate property transformation as we continue to release more and more properties for long-term leasing. The department has finalized the office accommodation plan for provincial departments. The implementation strategy of the plan details, amongst others, precinct development and acquisition of strategic properties. The plan, Madam Speaker, is premised on consolidating government departments into one-stop shops in order to improve access to government services while equally changing the special outlook of small towns. Madam Speaker, an amount of 271 million has been allocated towards leases for office accommodation. We have made minor strides in introducing 3 new entrants as landlords in the leasing portfolio who are 100% controlled and managed, one of which is a female. The implementation of the office accommodation plan will further provide an opportunity to transform this portfolio to represent the demographics of the province. The non-racial character of the governing party cannot be misused to deter us from the nature of our struggle. The success of the democratic project hinges on not interpreting and accepting the racial disparities, but taking practical steps to change them. Honorable Speaker, on the 26th of March 2021, I will be in Umtata to launch the provincial chapter of the Operation Bring Back campaign. Through this campaign, we will investigate state-owned properties, including vacant land parcels which may have been transferred illegally. In 2021-2022, we will enrich the OBB campaign by conducting intensive land audits. The sum total of these programs will lead to a more credible, immovable asset register with properties readily available to be released for revenue generation and investment. Honorable members, by Honorable Premier in his State of the Province address, the following projects have been completed and will be handed over in the coming financial year. The Alwal North Cluster offices, renamed the Temba Kojana Office Park, the Komani Cluster offices, renamed Batandwa Ndondo Office Park, and the ex-Mary Teresa Hospital in Mount Frey, renamed the Tobile Bam Office Park. In the 2021 financial year, the department has set aside 230 million for construction and maintenance of state-owned office buildings. This includes the maintenance of the National Key Point as well as the Prestige portfolio. Honorable members, the following projects are under planning for implementation in the outer years: Ado Office Cluster and offices. The following projects, among others, are scheduled for construction in the coming financial year: Artisan Development and Training Center in Makanda, Mkanduli Office Clusters, and Ematresibeni Cluster Offices. Importantly, we are making strides to relocate departments of health and human settlements from Kokstad to Ematresibeni. Honorable members, the delivery of the Bishop Precinct remains our priority. The process to review space norms in line with COVID-19 and the occupational health and safety regulations have been completed. The department, in collaboration with the Provincial Treasury, has National Treasury to consider a limited bidding process with state-owned entities. The plan is to ensure that the bid is awarded before the first quarter in the 2021-22 financial year. Honorable Speaker, the department will be responsible for delivering both capital and maintenance infrastructure projects for the education department and health. For its part, the Department of Education has further entrusted us with developing a turnaround plan of the delivery of education infrastructure with an emphasis on decommitment strategy. In delivering infrastructure, we will adopt the same speed and agility utilized in refurbishing health facilities in response to COVID-19 pandemic. The capacity demonstrated of utilizing internal professionals resulted to 95 million savings, which otherwise would have been paid to consultants. I wish to express my sincere gratitude to the professionals and candidates for their sterling work and determination during that difficult time. Honorable members, you would agree with me that what seems to block the horizon is the general decay of government infrastructure. In assuming these responsibilities, we acknowledge our failures, and therefore we have developed a facilities management model which will be implemented by the second quarter of the coming financial year. The model will improve the turnaround time on general operations and maintenance of state-owned buildings. I am convinced that our ability to deliver education and health infrastructure will enable the two departments to focus on their core mandate. Furthermore, We will continue to implement infrastructure projects on behalf of client departments such as Social Development, COGTA, DISRAC, and the Department of Transport. Somlomo obekekileyo, silisebe asigunqi kwisibhambathiso esasenzayo sokuxhasa nokukhulisa osomashishini abasakhulayo. It is pleasing to report that of the 26 contractors in the ICDP database have been awarded contracts to the value of 60 million. 18 of these are youth, while 6 are women-owned contractors. More contractors outside the database have been subcontracted during the refurbishment of health facilities in response to COVID-19 pandemic to an amount of 142 million. I wish to commend the contractors for their dedication and commitment in ensuring that the provision of additional beds and oxygen gas for COVID-19 patients. Some of these small contractors worked 24-hour shifts to help strengthen our fight against COVID-19. Honorable members, you would agree more that can be done utilizing the EPW grant to fight unemployment in the province. As a result, we have initiated a conversation on the role of public works and infrastructure as both a reporting coordinator and a strategic intervener when the need arises. We will pilot our interventionist role in the adopted district municipalities of Alfrenzo and Sarah Batman. The overall provincial EPWP target in the 2021-22 financial year is 93,687. For its part, the department will create 4,000 work opportunities through the implementation of its flagship programs. Key amongst these is the Artisan Development Program, which we intend to lift as one of the provincial infrastructure development skills pipeline initiatives. In this regard, the department will initiate a discussion with sister departments under the stewardship of the Office of the Premier with a view to integrate and consolidate the implementation of this program. The second skills pipeline initiative is our Provincial Development Program, which currently has 75 registered professionals and 101 candidates in various disciplines in the built environment and property environment. This skills pipeline is effectively coordinated, if effectively coordinated, will increase the provincial capacity to package and implement infrastructure projects. Honorable members, last year, through the M plan, I launched at Kangxi Technical High School in Alfrenzo a program for the support of technical high schools with drawing material and graphic design laboratories. The technical schools to benefit in this coming year are Putatichaba Technical High in Matatiel, Mount Elif Comprehensive Technical High, and Oliver Tambo Comprehensive Technical in Bizana. During the first quarter of 2021-2022, we will be handing over a technical workshop to Mfazwe Technical School in Dabangulu, which is the only technical school that provides training on welding in the entire Alfrenzo region. Honorable members, with the support of our oversight bodies, we will continue to strengthen the control environment and maintain clean, good governance. Let us draw inspiration from Thomas Sankara, who reminisced, I quote, "It took the madmen, and I dare say, and women, of yesterday for us to be able to act with extreme clarity today. We must dare to invent the future," close quote. I now table the 2021-2022 policy and budget speech, annual performance plan, and the operational plan for the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure. I thank you.
Honorable Speaker, you are muted. Unmute, Honorable Speaker. Unmute. Honorable Speaker, you were muted. We can't hear anything. Honorable Speaker, you are
Honorable
still muted.
Speaker, you are not speaking to us. We can't hear you.
Honorable members, there seems to be a problem. We're trying to reach the speaker again.
Good day, honorable members. Can you hear me now? Honorable
Yes,
members?
thank you, Honorable Speaker. Yes, thank you very much.
I don't know what happened, but can I please ask members? I had so many people trying to call me. Once you call me, even if I switch off your call, it disrupts the connection. So I'm asking, please, whoever, if there's an issue, send me rather a WhatsApp. I will appreciate it. I'm not sure if the MEC of Education heard me calling him up. I think there was a problem with my sound. And we will allow the MEC of Education then to present this policy speech if the Secretary has already read out the order.
Tabling of budget vote 6, education.
MEC of Education, will you please present your 2021-22 policy speech? It's 16:10 now.
No, thanks, Honorable Speaker, Honorable Premier. Allow me to say your established protocol is observed in the interest of time. Honorable Deputy Speaker and Honorable Speaker, this is a country of heroes and heroines. As the people of this land, we continue to draw strength and encouragement from the great struggles fought by those that came before us. This year marks the 150 years of anniversary of the birth of one of the South African's most remarkable and pioneer leaders, the Charlotte Maxeke. She was the first South African woman who obtained a science degree in this country. Was a delegate to the ANC's founding conference in 1912 and was a founder of the Bantu Women's League, a forerunner to the ANC Women's League. Once more, Honorable Speaker, this is a nation of heroines and heroes. South Africa is one amongst the only 22 countries that maintain grade 12 exit level national certificate examinations last year. This is a tribute to the thousands of teachers, principals, and other education officials who were at the front line workers of the sector as we were confronted by the devastating pandemic and demonstrated high levels of courage and resilience. Honorable Speaker, this policy budget presentation takes place 2 months after the passing of the late and the longest serving head of the Department of Basic Education in the province, Mr. Themba Kojana, a giant amongst administrators, beloved father, a mathematician, teacher, an activist, a great leader who made massive contribution towards transforming the basic education in the province and as well in the country. As a department, Honorable Speaker, we acknowledge those officials and all those who worked with us and are part of the basic education family who succumbed to the virus. We send our deepest condolences to the beloved families. To all of them, we say to you, be comforted that your loved ones have run their race. Ours is to pick up the spear and soldier on, Honorable Speaker. We are presenting, Honorable Speaker, this policy budget with a history of the ascendancy of the grade 12 results for the past 3 years, which has actually given us in the previous year 76.5%, with a decline of, which led us into a decline of 68.1 in 2020. But however, Honorable Speaker, all the districts experienced a corresponding decline in the national senior certificate pass rate, as we would understand that we did experience a national decline on the national senior certificate in the previous year. We are gratefully as well, Honorable Speaker, that we have observed a high level of improved performance qualitatively, which has actually given us 2 top achievers in the country by the name Base, Renant, and Bongo Simamkele, both hailing from the province. And as well, we can't fail to mention that the overall national achiever came from this province by the name Base Renat from Pienstein High School, Honorable Speaker. I am proud of the outstanding efforts of each of the 12 districts officials in all of the districts that have been timelessly ensuring that we manage the examinations for 2020 without any qualms. These districts achieved outcomes at a level of 70%, almost 4 of them, and the rest achieved above 60%, which from a qualitative point of view is a resounding success. Honorable Speaker, whilst all of us will celebrate grade 12 and discussed with praise, but as a Department of Education, it becomes critical for us to have a closer look on the first 1,000 days of the schooling system, which is grade R and grade 1, and in the process made a clear and a scientific analysis of all those grades from grade 1 to grade 11 as we traverse the journey of 12 years. We are, of course, proud to say our grade R pass rate has remained consistent for the past 3 years at 95% ever since 2019. And in 2020, it also worth noting that grade 10, pass improvement was at 62% as compared to 2019, which was 74% without the COVID-19. We are making that particular analysis so that when we make a comparison and as well the upward trajectory for the examinations in the country, we look at them systemically, Honorable Speaker and Honorable Members. Honorable Speaker, the improvements in learning outcomes across the multi-grades reflects a deliberate effort made by the departments to continue to improve the quality of the public education in the province. As indicated in last year's policy directive and speech, Honorable Speaker, we committed ourselves on the language policy transformation, which has actually yielded us a positive spin-off, resulting to us having trial examinations that were written on the mother tongue bilingual education in the province, and making a bold statement that language policy becomes critical in any development of the nation. As a department, we recognize the importance again of the early years of the schooling, which is the most important determinant of the improvement in the performance of learners in the basic education journey. In 2019-2020 financial year, Honorable Speaker, we have made some strides and we have made some achievements as directed by the 2020 National Development Plan, whose vision is to build an education system that produces a highly skilled, productive citizens. And some of the achievements have been listed on the policy speech, Honorable Speaker. We must be, Honorable Speaker, noting that good nutrition is a backbone of effective learning, especially for younger learners. During 2020-2021 financial year, the following achievements are noted for the National Schools Nutrition Program. A new primary school was awarded by the Department of Basic Education a nutrition excellence accolade and placed position 1 in the country as one of the best schools that feed healthy nutrition in the schools in the country. OR Tambo Inland Education District was as well placed as position number 2 for the implementation of the National Schools Nutrition Program nationally. This then reflects the importance of ensuring that when we speak education and health becomes critical, so that we are able, Honorable Speaker, of ensuring that education and health does give us the results that are required. Honorable Speaker, the department would wish to replicate the same procurement model for the provisioning of the PPEs to schools in 2021-2022 financial year, on the basis that it was one of the safe models that we have ever procured, and it has responded into the local economic policies that we have been enduring and have been espoused by our forebearers. in responding to the second economy that we have as rural provinces. It is imperative also, Honorable Speaker, to note that albeit the challenges that we have on infrastructure, the Department of Education has been able to finalize 26 infrastructure projects funded by Education Infrastructure Grant at a range of 222,248,572 rands. All those projects are projects that are ready to be handed over to the communities of the Eastern Cape, as we have been mandated to build an infrastructure that is compliantly with the required standards within the global village, Honorable Speaker. We are presenting this budget speech to this House, Honorable Speaker, with the allocation of for administration that is going to receive about 3 billion rand in 2021-2022 and 8.8 billion over the medium-term expenditure framework period. This is to provide good governance, financial management, and assurance services and effective administration services in the head office, circuit management centers, and in schools in our education system. Secondly, we are again, Honorable Speaker, allocating to public ordinary schools an allocation of 0.7% to the received last year, which was 28.7 billion rands for the administration of the public schools in the province. We are again, Honorable Speaker, as the Department of Education, announcing that we will be allocating 101 million for the independent school subsidy and as well 431 million over the medium-term expenditure framework. This is to manage the norms and standards by 28.3% in order to enable the budget for the reduction based on fiscal consolidation, as we would understand that the department has suffered a bit in terms of the financial reduction or consolidation, Honorable Speaker. We are again committing in 2021-2022 the budget for early childhood development an increase by 26.2% from the 2020-21 adjustment budget over the medium-term expenditure framework program, which will yield us or receives 2.0 billion allocation to cater for the appointment of the early training and development of the ECD and grade R practitioners, that the funding for grade R learners at a rate of 70% of funding for grade 1 learners, resulting into grade R funding allocation, which will be about 1.028 to quintile 1 to 3. Lastly, Honorable Speaker, would want to announce that albeit all the challenges that we have as a sector, we have been able to secure 228 active projects in the province, with the following 5 major projects that are to be completed during this financial year. Those are the following schools that must be, with immediate effect, be finalized so that they are phased out
Honourable
of
Member,
the
you have
outstanding
2 minutes remaining.
projects. Thanks, Honourable Speaker. The Jubilee Primary School, Maluti Senior Secondary School, Mfezana Senior Secondary School, Stanford Junior Secondary School, Tembisa Special Schools and Hostel, Nelson Mandela Bay, Alfred Nzo West. They are in Alfred Nzo West in Nelson Mandela Bay, and also in OR Tambo inland. Would want to thank all those that have made us to succeed during the turbulence and the difficult year that we experienced in 2020, Honorable Speaker. Albeit to say we have set aside 40 million rands for the mandate that we have been given by the National Minister of ensuring that we establish a national language academy in the province, which must respond on a variety of language skills. Among such skills is the sign language, which is crippling number of sectors. If you can trace the problem around Mthatha High Court case of the EFATA principal that was murdered, and that case have not been resolved on the basis of this issue around the language inefficiency in the country. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Member. You just a few seconds remaining. The policy speech and the table documents stand therefore referred to the Portfolio Committee, responsible for the subject matter of the vote in terms of Rule 161(2). It has been brought to my attention that at the time when I was cut off, Honourable Van Boegenwode had his hand up. Honourable Van Boegenwode, my apology. If Honourable Van Boegenwode, it was brought to my attention. If not, then let us allow the Secretary to read the 6th order of the day. Honourable Van Boegenwode.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, thank you for the opportunity. Speaker, I just need to bring back to your attention of the presiding officers. I was communicated via the Chief Whip of the Legislature to engage the EFF members according to the attire. I did so, Speaker, and I can report that the members are adamant that they are going to remain in the House and that the matter is before the Court of Law. That's my submission. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Van Boegenwode. We will refer this matter to the Ethics Committee. We will not allow anyone to disrupt our proceedings. The rules are quite clear. We even read them before we start our virtual and hybrid sitting. Thank you so much. I will now call upon the Secretary to read the 6th order of the day.
Tabling of budget vote 7, cooperative governance and traditional affairs.
I call upon the MEC for the Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, Honourable MEC Ngata, to present your 2021-22 policy speech in terms of Rule 164. Over to you, Honorable Member. It is 16:32.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker of the Provincial Legislature, Deputy Speaker of our esteemed House, Premier, members of the Executive, Chairperson of Portfolio Committee, Chairperson of the House of Traditional Leaders, Chair of SALGA, Executive Mayors, Honorable Members of the House, leaders of faith-based organizations and leaders of the academic and research institutions, government officials present, invited guests, members of the media, fellow South Africans, ladies and gentlemen, greetings to all of you. Honorable Speaker, the African National Congress is firmly on course to execute the People's Plan to create a better life for all our people. The sixth administration is a moment of renewal to build a united, non-racial, non-sexist, and prosperous and democratic South Africa. In this context, the Freedom Charter remains our inspiration and our strategic guide to realize a better life and a South Africa that truly belongs to all who live in it, black and white. Madam Speaker, we are building a capable developmental state with continuous reorganizing the way it interacts with the people and improving the performance of local government to be responsive to the needs and concerns of the people is our priority. This is at the heart of our renewal project. As we continue to live under the new normal, we must at all times take cognizance of the fact that changing our behavior is everyone's responsibility to observe all the health protocols to defeat COVID-19. Our mandate is premised on Section 151 of the Constitution, which makes provision for the establishment of local government sphere closest to the people, distinctive government sphere which is also interrelated and interdependent with the national and provincial government spheres. In essence, a developmental local government largely depends on our inclusive service delivery support interventions approach in providing the required service to municipalities and traditional leadership institutions. Our government's 25-year review reflects both positive aspects that require affirmation and negative areas that require critical improvement for the betterment of our country's service delivery narrative in all places. As we celebrate our achievements as the government of the people, we are equally mindful of the triple challenges facing our province that we must promptly deal with. As we all know, politics is always at play in all public service delivery environments. We therefore require a matured level of political engagements that create stability in the local sphere. The department has been providing support to municipalities through Section 154 and 139 of the Constitution to guarantee stability and to respond to the needs of communities. Any municipal support package must be coupled by a level of desire, willingness, acceptance of the support, which should be based on the areas of support requirements. It is important to indicate to this Honorable House that most municipalities are receptive to cooperative governance principles towards developmental local government. The financial viability of our municipality remains a challenge, and unfortunately, the municipal audit report has not been issued yet by the AG due to COVID-19. However, the 2018-19 reflect the picture of serious disorder in accounting records, also the inability of municipalities to provide information to support their annual financial statements. To this effect, Section 71 reports serve as an early warning system, but such warnings are disregarded by leadership of some of the municipalities. This therefore points to inadequate implementation of recommendations by oversight structures that are meant to guide and support municipalities with compliance, internal control, supply chain management, performance information, and annual financial management matters. What therefore becomes critical, Honorable Speaker, is how we rescue ourselves from these inherent consequences
which unfortunately have a direct negative impact on service delivery drive, which is the current government's obligation. Against this background, I have signed a pledge with all executive mayors and mayors to respond to the root causes of poor financial performance by municipalities and subsequently the implementation of the audit improvement plan. These efforts are being monitored on a quarterly basis to determine the level of compliance and progress. Honorable Speaker, as the fourth local government comes to an end, the time has come for all municipalities to take a pause and reflect on their performance highlights and, most importantly, craft a strategic trust and trajectory to carry the needs and aspirations of our people in the Eastern Cape. In this context, the upcoming local government elections present our municipalities and traditional leadership institutions with an opportunity to work together to realize free and fair elections in their areas. Equally important is to deliver basic services to stem the tide of violent and destructive service delivery-related protests. The term of local houses for traditional leaders is also coming to an end, and the support provided by COGTA should enhance their functionality post the elections. The department therefore commits to realize the objective with the natural impact on the dignity of traditional leadership. We'll make sure the municipal plans and traditional leadership institutions are aligned with government priorities. The NDP, the Provincial Development Plan, the medium-term strategic framework. This we will do in response to the government's district development model and back to basic program. On the departmental and environmental setting, Honorable Speaker, the nature of our support service environment is characterized by fragility due to external factors that consistently manifest themselves during the implementation phases of our plans. However, we regard these external factors as challenges that provide an opportunity to justify the reasons for our existence in line with our mandate, considering the skills and competencies our department possesses. In line with the department's legislative framework, we'll focus on the approved Eastern Cape prioritization framework, and these frameworks guide our capacity building interventions in municipalities. We will also implement the Spatial Planning and Land Use Management Act, accelerate revenue generation strategies, improve disaster management in the province, including known phenomena such as flooding and other climate-related annual occurrences, support municipalities for the development and implementation of bylaws, and improve development capacity of institution of traditional leadership will be prioritized. Madam Speaker, as I've indicated above, that COVID-19 did not make it easy for us to implement all our targets. I would like to make reflections in respect to what department managed to deliver as per the 2020-21 policy speech. Just highlight, Honorable Speaker, one of the issues was to do the group coaching for senior managers with funding from the European Union, working together with the School of Governance. We have also developed the service delivery model, implementation plan, and we have also provided monitoring to 26 municipalities on the implementation of their respective audit response plans. And that we've allocated 10 million to Amahlati, Great Kai, and Sundays River as part payment towards their debt to ESCOM. And we've also produced a booklet for that provides details on the government business support directory booklet, which the municipalities have welcomed. And those are the issues which we have done over the period. The above reflects some of our key achievements despite COVID-19 pandemic, Honorable Speaker. And ladies and gentlemen, the inability of municipalities to collect revenue for service renders contribute to the inadequate supply of municipal services. And the situation is even exacerbated by the spread of COVID-19, where some people have lost their jobs and subsequently their income. This is also a challenge of inaccurate billing that contribute to payment and delay payment for municipalities. On municipal support and intervention, in the year under review, the department has managed to develop a municipal support and intervention framework which was approved by Cabinet in August to ensure that we've got targeted support as the challenges of municipality are not the same. And also we've ensured that we provided support by sending senior officials in Matatiela, where there was an issue between the then MM and the municipality. A municipal manager has since been employed and the matter with the former MM resolved. We've also provided support to local municipalities, Sakisizwe, they had a dispute with their own MM. Resistance to receive support is detrimental not only to the municipality, but to the entire communities that are expected to receive municipal services. The case at hand is that of OR Tambo District Municipality. Madam Speaker, it is important to bear in mind that for municipal support to realize any meaningful fruits, the extent of the damage done should be understood and analyzed, because the more the damage that has been done to a municipality, the longer it will take for the results to be seen. Sometimes you'll hear people to say, not appreciating the depth of the problem and the damage that has been done over a period. On Section 139, the intervention in Inokim Kijima through a mandatory financial recovery plan, and which is a decision of court. Since July last year, we've been reporting to court quarterly without fail on the progress we're making. And the financial crisis that is confronting Amatola District Municipality has led to ESCO to evoke Section 139(5)(a) of the Constitution, again to implement a mandatory financial recovery plan in this municipality. And work is currently being done to ensure that the financial recovery plan is rolled out. On forensic investigations, focusing on all the completed, we have completed and tabled forensic investigations in Great Kaya, Mahlati, KSD, Engobo, Emalahleni. And I'm glad to say that the two municipalities that have been leading in implementing the recommendations of the reports would be Great Kai and the Emalahleni municipality. And we've seen positive results in Emalahleni, where a company that left electricity light project not completed, high mast lights, left them without completion. When they were given a notice by the municipality that they will be blacklisted in the National Treasury database, they came back to complete the project. Those are the benefits of ensuring that there are consequences for wrongdoing. And other completed forensic investigations that have not been tabled include Inokim Kijima, Walter Sisulu, Port St. John's, Raymond Mhlaba Municipality, which will outline a process to table them. And there are two ongoing forensic investigations in Buffalo City and Amatole District Municipality. On Section 106 of the Systems Act, Honorable Speaker, the success of 106 investigation is due to the approach that we have adopted as COCTA of multidisciplinary team. To this effect, one of the reports we just completed and tabled is one of Ingubaya Temba Municipality. I have noted here something that I thought is important to share in public, an issue which I raised when I was there, that I noted a report that said that the municipality has used the 7 million to build a council chamber. They rescinded, they have not used that money. They rescinded the decision. And therefore the report which was in the Daily Dispatch is not true. And on the implementation and rollout of district development model, there are plans to increase cooperation among the spheres of government to ensure collaboration between OTP, Provincial Treasurer, and sector departments to accelerate, and the Provincial District Development Hub is going to be established and be housed in Bisho, and our head office. And the successes of DDM, which I wish to note, for instance, OR Tambo District Municipality, one plan, process plan has been completed, and the stage of diagnosis assessment, envisioning, and DDM strategy formulation, that has been completed. And OR Tambo District Municipal Technical Capacity Hub has been established with the electric engineer based there, administrator, development planner there, financial management specialists, and civil engineer. They are part of the district hub as one of the issues that we are doing as we implement DDM. Equally so, the department managed to secure partnership with the following DBSA to fund OR Tambo Technical Hub and provide lending and non-lending support. Through DDM Technical Hub, OR Tambo is securing partnership with CEDA, Forte, WUSU, KUHA, and NMMU for social impact program. Also, COCTA has ensured a partnership with the UN for DDM support, and also with the South African Forum of Civil Engineers, contractors are also on board in the national department. And on putting people first, the department has prioritized municipalities in various districts to conduct a cadastral survey for access to land rights, and resources have been allocated to undertake these tasks that have been mentioned. The new financial year 2021 is a milestone towards the reconstitution of the King and Traditional Council to ensure alignment of terms of office of the national, provincial, and local houses together with of traditional councils. Pardon me. The department is thus committed to provide deserved traditional leadership support, administrative and otherwise. And I remain committed to implement early in April the summit with traditional leaders have been calling for. And the implementation of the Traditional Leadership and Cohesion Act was awaiting the implementation date to be promulgated by the President for implementation on the 1st of 2021. And to rationalize the new legislation, the department started the process to review the provincial legislation by drafting the Eastern Cape Traditional Leadership and Cohesion Bill, which will be finalized this year. In terms of the legislation, national government will appoint a commission that is going to give more meaning to the implementation of this. Honorable Chair, our department is headquartered in a building named after an outstanding and famous music composer, Benjamin John Peter Chamzashi, popularly known as Bika T. He is said to have composed more than 500 songs, and our capital bishop is named.
Honorable Member, you have 2 minutes remaining.
Oh my God. Okay, with the 2 minutes remaining, Honorable Speaker, with our local economic development, the department is collaborating with National COCTA on the program of CPWP, and will be providing training for 1,500 CWP workers. And then on the Provincial Small Town Development Framework was developed and approved by ESCO. We have done some work to coordinate collaboratively with OTP and TEDET, SALGA, to support and develop provincial agreed towns, namely Mount Elif, Mount Fletcher, Port St. John's, Kirkwood, Stadarem, Tofimvaba, and Mthatha. And the department shall further use CPWP participants to provide labor-intensive inputs. And we'll be launching back the campaign for the cleanest town in the province. And we really welcome the campaign by Sanko, the cleaning campaign. As COCTA will be launching that campaign to provide the national awards for cleanest towns going forward. Honorable Speaker, During the financial year, our department will strengthen and enhance the operational capacity of all 6 district offices to deliver services. And to give effect to this commitment, I have delegated
Honourable Member,
appropriate
can you
powers to
please wrap
districts.
up? Your time is expired.
Honourable Speaker.
Will you please just wrap up?
Okay. On conclusion, Honourable Speaker, I wish to thank the Team COCTA for good work done, and I'm looking forward to building higher levels of professionalism and commitment in our daily work. The department will continue to maintain and enhance support provisioning to municipalities and traditional leadership institutions in respect to the developmental agenda of the province and that the national government and that of the national government at large. And ladies and gentlemen, allow me to express my gratitude to the Premier for the guidance and the Executive Council for the support in the process of rebuilding capable and viable municipalities and traditional leadership institutions. We all belong in this province, and it is upon us that we unite and build a sustainable province. I therefore hereby present the policy speech, APP, Operational Plan 2021-2022 for the Department of COCTA. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The policy speech and the table documents that refer to the Portfolio Committee responsible for the subject matter of the vote in terms of Rule 161(2). I will now ask the Secretary to read the 7th order of the day, but honourable members who will be coming up, please be advised, do not switch or press any buttons at the podium where you are. You are interfering with the sound quality of the House. Over to you, Secretary.
Consideration of report of Portfolio Committee on Education on schools visits.
Honourable members, before we continue with the presentation of the report, I wish to advise the House that the Whips Committee has agreed that reports will be presented by the chairperson and that the House will immediately start the debate thereafter. There will therefore be no questions or clarities to the committee nor to the MEC. This was done in terms of Rule 73(2) of the Standing Rules of the Legislature, which provides that the Whips of committee must determine whether a report of a committee must be debated in the House. I will now call upon the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee of Education to present the report. Honourable Saziwa, you have 10 minutes. It is 16:54.
Imam Flobom. Ngicela ukukhulula lo mcimbi ngani alizovakala wonina benikhulule Speaker, let me say all protocol observed in honor of time. Before I present the summary of the report that has covered more than 300 schools in the province, I want the House to note the following. The first note is that only 2 members of the House indicated their non-availability for the visits. It was Honorable Tekana as well as Honorable Kutsie. Others missed in the action. 2, as may be aware that the report was prepared before the Minister of Arts, Sport and Culture gazetted new names for some of our towns. So those names are still appearing as those towns. So in terms of the report, the contents of the report, those new towns must be incorporated in the report. The third issue that I want to take note of is that for Amatole East District, our members were prevented to do their work on the first day. As such, as we might have seen the report, many of the districts had their findings, but there's nothing for Amatoli East in terms of the state of the district. We never got any report. We call upon, therefore, the legislature to call that district to come and present its report to the legislature now at their own cost. And that action must be taken against those hooligans who prevented members of the House to do their work. We go straight to general findings, which reads as follows. The infrastructure is very old, dilapidated, and not conducive for teaching and learning in the majority of schools that were visited by the committee. There's a massive shortage of classrooms in schools, which resulted in the overcrowding of classes. There's still a shortage of furniture for learners and educators. Not all senior secondary schools were provided with gadgets due to court interdict on the rollout of that facility. In some districts, there was no plan to ensure that these gadgets were returned to schools, while these gadgets were assets of the school. Learners refused to return gadgets, claiming that it was the service provider we interacted with and issued these gadgets directly to them, not schools. Principals of schools were undermined in this process of issuing these gadgets to learners. The department preferred Funza Lushaga bursary holders when it comes to the employment of educators. In schools that were closed through rationalization, resources were not following learners, e.g. no scholar transport was provided, lack of educators, and shortage of furniture. Acting school principals were not getting acting allowance, which is a violation of the Labour Relations Act. Some schools are still faced with improper kitchen facilities. The challenge of schools not provided with support staff persists in most of the schools. The department is still confronted with a serious shortage of Afrikaans, Sotho, mathematics, and life science educators in its pool of additional educators. The issue of learner support material funds, which is still centralized at head office, is viewed as a limiting to schools. The stationery packs provided to schools are of cheap and poor quality. There are huge shortages of stationery in most of the schools, which is due to an increased number of learners, and the department is using numbers for the previous year to make orders for the current academic year. There is a general shortage of application facilities, leading to sharing of application facilities by many learners. There are still schools that do not have proper fencing, and as such, those schools are exposed to burglary, vandalism, and the safety of educators and other staff members are robbed whilst on school premises. There are schools without sport facilities, and therefore learners are not participating in any sporting code. Learners are faced with societal challenges like substance abuse, crime, teenage pregnancy, and heading families, and that disturbs them psychologically and affects the learning process. School safety and security are still a problem. There's lack of running water in some schools. In many rural schools, there's a challenge of network connectivity, which resulted in gadgets and educator laptops not being used. There are schools in the province with no signage. Some taverns are situated nearer to schools. Some learners do not benefit from scholar transport, which is against the policy of the department. In deep rural areas, roads leading to schools are inaccessible, which resulted in learners and educators not attending schools on rainy days. I know the team from Joe Gabi, the Ulundi area, got stuck on the mud. They were rescued by the chief whip when going to another school. On recommendations, the department must provide the committee with a plan that is meant to ensure that schools are provided with proper infrastructure within 30 days of the adoption of the report. The department must ensure that schools are provided with mobile classrooms while waiting for proper schools to be built to curb the issue of overcrowding. The department must ensure that furniture for learners is provided within 7 days after the adoption of this report, and all educators are provided with the furniture in the next financial year. The department must ensure that all outstanding secondary schools are provided with gadgets for teaching and learning to take place as required. The department must encourage learners to bring back their gadgets, as this will disadvantage the next cohort of learners, and school principals must be involved in issuing these gadgets to learners, as these form part of school assets. The department must avoid this discrimination of qualified educators, or the department must avoid this discrimination that all qualified educators must be prioritized and treated in the same manner as Funza Lushaka bursary holders. The department must ensure that when rationalizing schools, required resources must follow learners. The department must ensure that acting principals are paid an acting allowance to guard against the violation of the Labour Relations Act. The department must ensure that all schools...
Honourable Member.
Thank you, Speaker. The department working closely with the Department of Public Works and municipality must assist with regards to bad roads. We want to table both findings and recommendations per school, per district, and general findings. I thank you, Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Saziwa, but you still had another minute. I always remind members that if they have a minute or two. The following member from the DA, Honourable Kasim, you have 9 minutes starting now.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Fellow South Africans, I greet you with the universal greeting of peace. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Honourable Saziwa, what happened in Amatole East must be where we draw the line. It is unconstitutional. There is a basic tenet of separation of powers. Honourable MEC, we are members of the legislature. We are not members of the executive. We have a right to perform oversight, and we are not doing it to fight with the executive. We are doing it because we represent our people, and we want to go and see on behalf of our people what services they are getting and what services they are not getting. And I must tell you, Honourable MEC, what happened in Amatole East was not an isolated incident. I wrote to your office last week, a week before last week in fact, where out of courtesy, I demonstrated through you, Honourable Speaker, out of courtesy, I demonstrated to the Honourable MEC that I'm planning to do oversight at district offices on the services that are being rendered, because we have received complaints, Honourable MEC, that when our parents and our learners travel long distances in order to get services at district offices, they are turned away. There's no electricity, and they're not able to get the services that they want to get. This is not to fight with your office, Honourable MEC, and I do not require permission to do oversight, but out of courtesy, we want to make sure that we give notice so that we can be received. I never got a response from your office, and I was informed by the acting HOD that you had indicated that you didn't feel it was necessary for me to do the oversight that I needed to do. And this is a red line, Honourable Speaker, which we as members of the legislature dare not cross. We are not the executive. There's a clear separation of powers, and we have a constitutional responsibility.
Apology, Honourable Kasim, there's a hand. Honourable Kasim, there's a hand from Honourable Ngata. Honourable Ngata, you raise your hand. Honourable Ngata.
Yes, Honourable Speaker. I wanted to draw your attention, Honourable Speaker, that the Honourable Member, according to the rules, is not supposed to address Honourable Saziwa and Honourable MEC directly. He's supposed to address them via you, Honourable Speaker.
I did.
No, he did not do it. Honourable Speaker, I know we've got one speaker here of the House.
Honourable Ngata, thank you very much. Over to you, Honourable Kasim. Please do not directly call on the MEC, call through the speaker. Thank you.
Honourable Speaker, there's another hand on the House. I'm not sure if I should proceed or wait for the hand.
did not see. Can somebody just indicate? Is it inside the house? I am not able to get. Somebody must please, because I can't. Who is that, please? Honorable Van Buchenrode, thank you. Honorable Van Buchenrode. Yes, Honorable Van Buchenrode.
Honourable Speaker, on a point of clarity, the Honourable Member did say to you, to the MEC as well as to the Chairperson, so I think the last Honourable Member did not listen well, so I think that order is not sustained. Thank you.
We will check it out. Can we proceed? I don't think this is a major issue. It's
Thank
just
you.
something that we have to keep in mind when we do our business. You may proceed, Honorable Kassim.
Thank
will
you,
not
Honorable
take
Speaker.
away your 9 minutes that you have.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Through you, Honorable Speaker, I would like to say to the Honorable MEC and plead with the Honorable MEC, please, let us not set a bad precedent where members of the legislature have our constitutional rights trampled on. Please, we are there to support your office. Through you, Honorable Speaker, we are there to support your office, but to also ensure that we represent our people. And we are not going to take this, line down, because we cannot allow for our constitutional rights to be trampled on. Honorable Speaker, the Democratic Alliance believes that every individual should have the opportunity to be themselves, to develop themselves, and to pursue their own ends. However, we currently have learners in our province who, because of the failures that have been noted in the report by our Education Department, will never have the opportunity to properly develop themselves and pursue their own ends. And this is an indictment on our government. Our learners can never properly develop themselves if they do not have teachers to guide them along the way. There are 607 schools in our province without sufficient teachers. And on a visit to Ikwezi Secondary School in the Chris Hani West District, close to Takastad, I was saddened to see that their pass rate for mathematics was only 30.8%, and their pass rate for physical science was only 30%. Now, why would this be? There is no physical science teacher at the school, Honorable Speaker, and there is currently only one mathematics teacher for grades 8 to 12. In the last financial year, according to the department's own annual report, only 62.6% of schools were allocated have their full component of allocated teaching posts. And only 12.7% of grade 12 learners received 50% or more for mathematics, and only 26.09% of grade 12 learners received 50% or more for physical science. And while we had so many schools without the requisite number of teachers, the department does not have any way of being able to properly address the content gap of our learners. Not only is the teacher to post matching that we've been promised will take place not happened timelessly, but currently only 33% of grade R practitioners are appropriately qualified, whilst only a third of teachers meet the required content knowledge after receiving support. Our visits continued to uncover schools with inadequate furniture, and this is no surprise, Honourable Speaker, because in the previous financial year, not a single piece of teacher furniture was delivered to schools. And yet, ironically, our department can find money to pay up to 3 times the retail cost to buy these Samsung tablets. We could have bought them for a third of the cost, but we are leasing them at 3 times the costs. And we can talk for ages and ages about connecting our learners. We could have bought our learners those tablets. Now in the report, we see that we cannot even retrieve the tablets, and we cannot even retrieve them even though the contract has been suspended pending a review. But we could have bought those tablets at a third of the cost, given it to our learners, and said to them, take these tablets, even after you matriculate, go and use it to study further, go and use it to start a business. And we didn't do that. At Pumlani Primary School, the lives of our learners and teachers are being put at risk because they are being exposed to asbestos. And this school is not alone. It's one of over 1,400 asbestos schools in our province. And this dangerous, hazardous issue has been left unaddressed while our learners' and teachers' lives are being put at risk. Specifically at Pumlani Primary School, 1/5 of their maintenance budget was being used to purchase PPE. Therefore, they are unable to even make a dent in their crumbling infrastructure. And we warned the Honourable MEC of this, Honourable Speaker, when, on the last minute, our schools were being told, we're not going to purchase PPE, we're going to put it on your shoulders. You must go and purchase your own PPE. We said the maintenance budgets are not sufficient to do this. And we are seeing the results of this. And why are we in this situation? Because last year, we paid up to 5 times the retail price for PPE from beauty salons, from construction companies, not from PPE suppliers. So that overnight, those 200 odd suppliers, so-called suppliers, could become overnight millionaires. At Michelsdal Primary School in Craddock, which was built in 1969, the school still is receiving empty promises from our government. They were visited by the Kucha Development Corporation as an implementing agent number of times, and they still cannot be told, when are we going to build your infrastructure? The same at J.A. Gnatla Primary School in Craddock, where a grade R block was supposed to be built, visited by the CDC, they don't get any feedback. J.A. Tralata School, Honorable Speaker, is sinking. The school is sinking. It's a health hazard. Any minute, that school can collapse, and our teachers and learners' lives can be lost. And yet, they do not get any way forward from our department. The infrastructure failures of this department are putting our learners and teachers' lives at risk daily. And it seems as if our learners are going to war every day. And instead of going to receive an education to equip them, they are going to war with their lives put at risk. And not only is this crisis of delivery due to contractors walking off site as a result of not being paid, and the interest costs, the penalty costs, and the standing costs are approaching R500 million, Honorable Speaker, but also it's because of the inefficient infrastructure program that we have. Sterkstrom School, I see it was in the newsletter of the department as well recently, was burnt down, and they insured the school. They received a 20 million rand payout. Of that 20 million rand, they built a brand new school, state of the art. We went there, and it had these things that's called smart boards, things I've never seen before. 20 million rand, they built a brand new school in less than 6 months. Yet Jubilee Park Primary School, 8 years later, over 130 million rand spent, the school is still not complete. Honorable Speaker, we cannot continue like this.
Honorable Member.
Someone must be held accountable, and heads must roll. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you so much, Honorable Member. From the EFF, Honorable Zibula, you have 5 minutes.
Honorable, Honorable Speaker, the EFF Eastern Cape Provincial Chairperson, the Provincial Secretary, Landi Maketa, and all other fighters and members of the class. Let's first acknowledge the action by the Department of Education in dealing with the case of the principal school in Jokadi, who lowered an 11-year-old child to recover a cell phone that fell into the territory. It's an inhuman criminal incident that no parent would imagine happening to their own children. We were happy with the move to charge the principal with attempted murder, but we are not disappointed that the charge has been lowered to be that of child abuse. We strongly feel the weight and the seriousness of the incident does not seem to be charged late. We appeal to the NC to look beyond this incident, as it is now a norm that the Department of Education will always bring up some embarrassing incidents with the media. A lot needs to be done. EFF takes the visit to schools as a great initiative that to provide an opportunity to the legislature to actively participate in changing the status quo in education. But the fundamental questions that we will ask ourselves, how much impact are we having to the poor child, rural child at the public phase? Challenges in the development of education in Eastern Cape and are long-standing challenges, and the findings by the Education Portfolio Committee are reflective findings, but with recommendations that take 1 step forward and 5 steps backward. In the EFF Founders Manifesto 7 national dedicated cardinal pillar, pillar number 4 states that there must be free education. There is no hope that those challenges of all stagnated infrastructure could ever be resolved under the current leadership in this province. They have accepted that it's a norm to have this permanent problem and challenges. They have accepted the wide gap between the haves and the have-nots, the huge gap between the rural farm schools and the urban schools. The project department embarked on are not fully budgeted for. There are infrastructure problems in schools that are projects in schools that the product have unceremoniously left due to non-payment by the department. The reason given is that they shortage of funds in the budget that leaves more questions than answers. It only points on the lack of budgeting by the government. It's unthinkable how the small business contractors survive when they invest all their money, all that they have, their machinery in banking on the government that the government will pay, thinking that they'll be paid, but at the end of the day, they get a response to say they there's no money. Just imagine the families that get affected, the businesses that get closed because of that. It's sad. The poor planning and budgeting the Education Department is also explicitly shown by the case in Sarah Batman district, where a school needs a fencing. But the bulk of fencing was purchased by the government and residing in the storeroom for more than a year because the department did not budget for the installation of the fence. We wonder how many items that lie in the storeroom of the department until they get redundant. Another example.
You have 2 minutes remaining, Honorable Member.
Another is a technical school at Melanie Nyande, which has a classroom full with technical tools and material, which costed more than $1 million and was purchased almost 5 years ago, and was never used because the department never budgeted building a workshop. You get a department saying there is a warehouse full of furniture for learners, educators, for learners and children. Yet when you get to schools, they complain of lacking of furniture. It seems there's no proper liaison between the schools and the department, especially the district. The pain of teachers who studied through NSFAS, bursaries and self-funding when the prioritization of Funda Luchaka bursary is beyond anyone's imagination. This so-called education policy on prioritization of Funda Luchaka bursary holders is extremely wrong and heartless, considering the pain and service that some go through in acquiring their teaching qualifications. The sad part is that only this is unique to the state because some teachers have to leave the province to be able to get employed. The policy states that the school must appoint only the Funda Luchaka bursary holders who meet minimum qualifications, disregarding sometimes the experienced STP post teachers who are more qualified than the Funda Luchaka teacher and also are not able to content and the school's concern. But the Funda Luchaka always, at some stage, Funda Luchaka, they get to be given senior posts that they disregard those are experienced teachers for the government. The implementation of rationalization, especially when a recently built school had to be closed due to, does not assist the recent challenge of lack of infrastructure. The learners are moved from a new school because they are students and they have to be moved to one school, but that also when they get to the district teachers will challenge of infrastructure in the new merged school. Let us sponsor this suggestion that instead of becoming closed in the new school, but rather use both schools to have one school with different campuses.
Honorable Member, unfortunately your time is up. Honorable Member, your time is up. Honorable Member, your time is up. Thank you so much. Honorable Zinti from the UDM. Honorable Zinti from the UDM. Honorable Zinti, are you here virtually or in the house?
He's not here. You should just allow me to finish.
No, please, Honorable, I have not allowed you to speak. If Honorable Zinti is not there, we will go to Honorable Anil Kumar from the ANC.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, Premier, honorable members of this august House, guests and fellow South Africans. Early 1994, after thorough debate in the branches and the regions of African National Congress,
Madam Speaker,
as well as the Democratic
Parliament,
Alliance,
all in the wonderful name of my Lord and Savior Jesus
and
Christ.
Our apology, Honorable Anil Kumar.
The poor infrastructure still remains the biggest challenge in our schools. Insufficient toilets, overcrowding of classrooms, school fencing, those are some of the similar challenges faced by the schools. Poor access to sufficient roads and bridges leads to dropouts and fatalities. The poor infrastructure leaves learners to be taught in an unsafe environment. Overcrowded classes are still the challenge in our schools, which makes it difficult to adhere to some of COVID-19 regulations and also effective learning. The province recorded highest number of pit toilet, which is very concerning. Poor sanitation compromise learners' health, dignity, and privacy. The education system here, too, it continues to be dodged by stark inequality and chronic underperformance that have deep roots in the legacy of apartheid, but which are also not being effectively tackled by the current government. The department needs to address endemic failings in the system in order to guarantee the right to a decent education for every child in South Africa. The department needs to comply with both constitutional and international human rights obligations with respect to education. Major changes are needed urgently. Kule mfundo yanamhlanje yethu. The legacy of apartheid is still visible in some of schools in the province, where schools serving white communities are properly resourced. The result of modern day South Africa is that child's experience of education is still very much depends on where they are born. If bazalwe ezilalini apha bazoyifumana le ncasa ifunyanwa ngaba bamhlophe. And how wealthy they are, if ulihlwempu uselishweni. The government failure to address issues is not only the question of accountability, it has consequences for the life chances of young people and the future of this country. Beyond infrastructure, other barriers that children face to access a quality education includes lack of sufficient scholar transport, which often impacts on not just their ability to access education, but also can put their safety in jeopardy. Kunesinye isikolo ngapha ezilalini esasike saya kuyo lichaya abantwana bahamba i-distance ende besuka kwenye ilali beya kwenye ilali behamba ngeenyawo. Lonto leyo yenza into bana bangakwazi ukuyofikela ba drop out, abanye bakhathale endleleni bahlale phansi, abanye bende kwalapha endleleni. Urhulumente makayiqwalaseleke lonto leyo.
Honorable Member,
the department needs to adopt the culture of having social workers within the school system. Izikolo zethu zinabantwana abamithayo, zinabantwana abachaya insangu, zinabantwana abasela utywala.
Honorable Zinti, your
time is up. Please can you move away from the podium? Affect education system yethu nendlela abantwana abafunda ngayo. Sibone sine drop outs. Kangoba kwesinye isikolo safumana sobana there is umntwana oyintombazana oye walwa belwa ngebhotile yesavana nxaba eyiwe ngomnye umntwana.
Please can you move away from the podium? Can you please move away from the podium?
Beyond this infrastructure, other barriers that children face to access a quality education